The belief that children are natural philosophers inspired Matthew Lipman to write a series of children's books in which philosophical ideas are built into the storyline. These novels of ideas for 6 to 17-year-olds are the cornerstone of the Philosophy for Children program.
De eerste klassers van de Tusken School hebben er nu 5 maanden filosofieonderwijs op zitten.
We'll know that's math problems. Okay, I've just got room for one more here. So is there someone who hasn't had a question? Patrick.
Zo kregen ze het gebruik van hulpmiddelen als logica en argumentatie onder de knie.
That instead of doing her math problems, because she had so much other time. I can answer Lauren's question because she always thinks a lot. That's why she doesn't talk a lot.
Okay. Lauren?
She's thinking again. She's always thinking.
When they find themselves talking and being listened to by their peers, that's a very intoxicating experience, you see, and their self-esteem rises. And that's one of the things you want to happen in a classroom because there's a correlation between ability to learn and self-esteem. And many of the worst learners are people who have very low self-esteem, don't think that they could learn, don't think that they can think for themselves or just think.
I agree with Joanna because your brain is for learn and powerful.
So you agree with Joanna that your brain thinks, and you don't agree with Clarissa, who said it's you that thinks.
What did Clarissa say?
She says it's you that thinks, not your brain. That is an interesting thing to say, Clarissa. It's a connection, you're right, Christian. Philip?
Well, I disagree with Clarissa because if you didn't have a brain, you wouldn't even be thinking about the word that I'm talking right now. So it would be impossible without your brain. I think it could be possible with your brain because you have a heart, and the heart can beat, and it could think that it's beating.
You think that
I disagree with Joanna and Adele.
Bradley?
And I disagree with Carissa because you can have, if your heart beats, that's just your heart thinking. You don't know if your heart thinks.
You don't know if your heart thinks.
And if you have your brain like we really do, you would know all the thoughts.
Okay. Lauren?
I agree with Carissa because you think, like, and your brain stores your thoughts.
So it's really you that's doing the thinking. Okay. Robbie?
Well, if you didn't have a brain, you would say, what's that poem? What's that? How would you know what was happening, and how would you know how to spell the word if you didn't think about the word? You don't know anything, so you won't know what you're saying, and you don't know it.
So you can't even say, what's that? Is that what you're saying, Ricky?
Because if you don't know it, then it's like, well, I don't know what that is, and you don't even know where you are. You wouldn't even know how to say what. Oh, I know. You can't even talk because you don't know what the words are.
Christian?
No, because you don't have them. Well, I think I can sort of answer on this question because if you didn't have a brain, I know why they say you would die because you wouldn't have a brain, so you would keep falling down. You would keep falling down into the street and you would get run over, so you would just be immediately dead if you didn't have a brain. I disagree with Kristen because you would walk, and I disagree with Patrick. Your brain wouldn't tell you that you would walk. I'm thinking that I've got to talk, and if I didn't have a brain, I wouldn't be talking. Or if I didn't have a brain, I couldn't hear you, and I wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't be at school, and I wouldn't be doing anything. I wouldn't be alive.
I think that they're concentrating more on the process of how they get to their response and not just flying.
Deze 22 onderwijsmensen worden door Catherine McCall geïnstrueerd in het filosofie-leersysteem. Ze experimenteren ermee in de klas en de kinderen reageren er enthousiast op.
One of the things I found difficult in the beginning and enjoy now is the fact that I had to examine my thinking and support my conclusions. And that's exactly what I want children to do. I want them to respond thoughtfully and be able to defend and support what they say.
We're regaining, I think, that curiosity that we once had. I mean, truly what I liked about philosophy at first was it was finally okay for me to ask questions. I mean, my whole life, you know, living with the dogma and going to really, you know, religious schools, I was always the bane of the teachers because it was always why, and suddenly here's a vehicle where it's all right.
We assume that the quality of thought increases with age. I'm not so sure that's true. I think that given an opportunity, the quality for thought is always there. It's just that the opportunity isn't presented.
When Laura and Paul grow up, and they get really old, they won't know anything because they used up all of their thoughts.
Laura,
I mean,
do you
it's like
agree
a
with
car.
Patrick that you could use up all your thoughts when you were young and then you wouldn't have any more?
You can use up all your thoughts because sometimes I have thoughts and I forget them and I don't have any more for the rest of the day.
So that means you only have a certain amount of thoughts and then they're all
For
used
one
up?
day.
Stevie?
I disagree with Lauren because you always have thoughts. Everybody has thoughts. There's never no thoughts. There's always at least one thought in the world.
I think that you are watching a major change in the nature of education. Because if you could get education to center on thinking rather than rote learning, then you're preparing for a very different kind of world.